My name is Filipe Almeida. I'm an academic by training. I've been for 20 years professor at the University of Coimbra. I lived in the United States as well. I studied in the University of Virginia and also for a few years in Brazil, where I did my PhD on ethics. But my background is on management. So I've been professor of management and finance and psychology and also ethics in the School of Economics in the University of Coimbra. And 9 years ago, I was invited by the government to lead this very innovative, pioneering public policy program, which I've been doing since 2016.
So you are interdisciplinary yourself by definition.
Yes, I am.
And also you are bridging between academia and public policy, and I suppose when you are there, also connecting with other actors in the ecosystem here. So you are based in Lisbon.
Currently, Portugal Social Innovation Agency is based in Lisbon, but I have a team all over the country. So we have offices in different cities all over the country, but I'm based in Lisbon.
Okay, we go deep on that. How it started, who had the vision?
So Portugal Social Innovation is a Portuguese government initiative created in 2014 with two interconnected goals. On one hand, to promote social innovation. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, to develop a social investment market. It means that this government initiative has the objective of funding and inviting social organizations and the private sector in partnerships to test new approaches to the most pressing social challenges, so that we can find new solutions that can hopefully inspire also the evolution of public policies. And we do that mobilizing European funds since 2014. It was a pioneering experience in Portugal in 2014. The government created its national public policy, mobilized a small fraction of the European Social Fund that was negotiating with the European Commission by that time. And we tested this program. Let's see if it works like this, with specific financing instruments, aligning European funds, public funds with private funds to finance social innovation projects developed by social organizations and entrepreneurs that would test new solutions. 11 years ago, in 2013, 2014, Portugal was living under severe austerity measures after signing a 3-year economic adjustment with the European Commission, European Central Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. And the government was facing difficulties in accessing the debt market as well. And the increasing social needs were being addressed by mainstream social organizations, but also by emerging social entrepreneurs. And at the same time, since 2009, we had running in Portugal a very innovative social entrepreneurship school, the social business school, that was already providing capacity building for social entrepreneurs. And the major philanthropic foundation in Portugal, one of the biggest in the world, the Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation, also had created a task force of leading organizations to develop a report with the main infrastructures that the country should develop to enhance social investment and social innovation. So, and by that time, the government was negotiating with the European Commission the next programming period. And we had the luck of having in Portugal as well an academic expert on social innovation that had some ideas on how this could be built. And we were lucky to have a visionary minister by that time that was the minister in charge of negotiating with the European Commission these funds, and had this vision that putting all of these variables together, it would be a good opportunity to test a new public policy program that could use European funds and try to see if it was possible to attract private investment and to test new solutions with social entrepreneurs and social organizations and test new ways of contracting public services as well, all of these together. And because it was a small fraction of funds, I believe it was approved by the government and approved by the European Commission.
It was a pilot that was not frightening.
Yes, a pilot that was not frightening. And we had all of these conditions. We had experts on the ground. We had already some leading social entrepreneurs. We had this report from several organizations under the leadership of the Carlos Gulbenkian Foundation. Actually, this academic expert that I was talking about became the first president of Portugal Social Innovation. I replaced him in 2016, but he was the one who was nominated by the government in 2014 and the one responsible for the architecture of the first design of public.
I'm very curious to know the name of the person.
Yes, his name is Filipe Santos, also Filipe, and he's currently the Dean of the Católica University, School of Economic and Business and Economic of the Católica University in Portugal.
It was a very difficult moment for the country, of conditions in place, of leadership with vision. And you said one thing that I think is very, very important. This leadership with vision that is able to put the pieces together and make the negotiations in different levels, at the national level, but also at the European level. And bringing all these things together really make this new animal, because it was a test, become alive and it's still running. I mean, after so many years. So
yes, it's running more than ever. And let me just add one particular but very important thing. This was, in the beginning, 2014, a right-wing government. But we had a very significant change in the government in 2015 to a left-wing government. And we had a second visionary minister in a very different government. It was, she was the Ministry of the Presidency, as we call it in Portugal. And she had the vision that this public initiative should be kept by the government and developed by the government, because this was a good opportunity to explore the creativity of civil society and social organizations, inspire the evolution of public policies and the way we address the social challenges. And she was responsible for the continuity and the growth of this national program. So it is important to highlight this, because this is something that survives very different approaches from the government, from right to left wing, and now again right wing governments, but they kept this national public policy. I think social innovation, if it has the right approach, it can be really transversal to ideologies, because it really helps to develop investment, the investment paradigms, and also to address the social challenges and provide a path for the new generations as well to have impact on the world. And all of this is good, no matter right or left wings.
Yeah. So, and then we can go a little bit to understand the concept of social innovation. So you have a broader vision, which is very much aligned with our Eoh-for-Good vision, this working for the common good, open, bringing this social, business and technology-driven innovation together just for the improvement of different problems or challenges in society. But I would like to hear from you, what is the vision that is behind this initiative around social innovation?
We have a very pragmatic approach, because we have to decide which projects to fund, indicators to contract, and our approach to social innovation is not the social innovation of big societal transformations. It's the social innovation that addresses specific social problems. So we think of social innovation as the result of the development and implementation of a new product, a new service, a new methodology, or a new practice that has at its core the objective of having a positive social impact. And this positive social impact can be disaggregated in promoting autonomy of the ones who are more vulnerable among us, strengthening social relationships, and fighting inequalities, ideally with a systemic effect, a long-term effect. So we always look at projects that present new products, new services, new methods to address pressing social challenges that promotes autonomy, new relationships, and fights inequalities. So this is our approach. So every time we open calls, and the organizations that apply to our calls should present this. This is the problem I want to address, and here are the evidences that the problem does exist in this territory. And this is the methodology. This is what we're trying to do with the community, with people, to address and mitigate or even overcome this problem at a local level. Of course, they have to have a plan for dissemination of the methodology and the impact. The question that we ask all of them is not, are you economically sustainable? No. We ask, how does the impact can reach everyone that needs this kind of solution? So the plan is, how can we scale impact? Because we are using public funds and our focus is on the problem.
The social problem, yes. So I think that you are giving us the principles behind the initiative, which are inclusivity, impact-driven, long-term. Can you give us an example of one of these projects that you have been selecting, funding, and following up, so that we can have an idea of what we are really talking about?
In the previous programming period, the first phase of this test, we approved 698 projects all over the country, developed by 481 organizations, mainly from social economy organizations, but also startups, also business organizations, and even universities. And all of these organizations for these 698 projects were co-financed with 848 investors. Mainly from the private sector, but also the major foundations, and even more than half of the Portuguese municipalities that we also call social investors when they want to co-fund these projects. It represents 101 million euros of European funds, plus 51 million euros of social investment. So this is the scale that we reached in the first programming period. Now we have a new budget. We are funding hundreds of projects all over again. But for a small country like Portugal, this is quite an impressive reach for this small public policy program. It actually reached all the country at once. We found out that there is creativity. There are things that are being tested on the ground by mainstream social organizations as well, but they use these funds and this opportunity to really test new solutions on top of the solutions they already specialized in. So we have two categories of innovation. We equally value disruptive innovation that creates new solutions for problems that have no solution at all. And we equally value incremental innovation. We do not distinguish the value of this kind of innovation because it is completely reasonable for an organization that is specialized on a problem and provides a more traditional solution based on public funds, that if they had a possibility, what would you do differently? And they test new solutions on top of the solutions they already are doing on the ground. And this is innovation. This is social innovation as well for us. So we have a lot of projects that are incremental, but the more sexy projects, for the examples that you asked me, are more disruptive. But all of them have value on this. We should look for innovation on the answers, on the solutions that we already have.
This is very, very coherent with what you were saying at the beginning, that you are really focusing in a very pragmatic way to the problems that exist. Then it doesn't matter how you solve in either distractive or incremental, or with one methodology or the other, but you really go to the problem and you try to find the real solution. And I think that's you see I see the coherence from the beginning of the talk when you were explaining the initiative to how you are making this happen. So I think that's very interesting to see.
And we also do not distinguish in terms of value of the projects its scale,
Mhm.
not the scalability, the scale, because all of the projects that we fund, we look at them as experimental projects.
Mhm.
So what we value is the coherence and the between what you want to test and the community you want to address. So you have projects that have widespread impacts and projects that have small impacts on people's lives because they are testing solutions. Then you have to scale them. And some of the problems are transversal, others are not. Example, one of the first projects that we fund was the first universal code, visual code for the colorblind. Simple. This is not a very deep problem in people's lives, but for those that have color blindness, it is. And this was designed in Portugal. It's in hundreds of millions of products today all over the world. And it's the first and maybe the unique universal code for the colorblind. So this is disruptive innovation because you have no solution for this kind of problem. It's called ColorEd, and now it has grown a lot. It addresses a neglected social challenge. We are also funding a lot of projects on education. For example, we've been funding a very innovative startup that is trying and very successfully to gamify the education in different areas. They are testing to transform the curricula in a gaming scenario.
Different ways of learning, right?
Yes, the teacher becomes a game master. Each student is like an avatar in a game, and it has been tested in the difficult schools in Portugal, in social contexts that are more demanding, and it has been quite a successful approach to, and teachers are very happy with that. And now it's spreading all over the country. And this was tested in a nutshell. First, like in social innovation, we have dozens of projects that deal with elderly as well, using the most advanced technology to assist them and prevent falls, make sure that they take the medication, that they have some company, not just through technology, but with other kind of the neighbors and platforms that help on that. We are funding the leading operator for telemedicine in Portugal that made it more democratic and accessible to everyone. We have projects on health, specifically on health, and we are funding also incubators, social innovation incubators that have a multiplying effect in the territory. Already 38, currently there are 38 incubators that are providing capacity building, networking for local entrepreneurs, usually in close partnerships with municipalities as well. So it's a network of structures spread all over the country to improve and develop social entrepreneurship at a local or regional level. So all of these, it's very hard for me to highlight some examples because there are hundreds, more than 1,000 now, and I know all of them, most of them, and they are very interesting. And you can find them on the Portugal Social Innovation website. We have some projects that are very successful with people with disabilities and employability of people with disabilities. For example, a very interesting project that contracts different phases of the manufacturing cycle with the industry and only contracts people with disability. So they have a training, an intensive training on the job, and after a few months, the organization and the industry and the company is prepared to receive this worker. It's being prepared for that, and the worker is specialized on the task. So they cross the valley of death of the prejudice of the industry to give employment to this kind of people. And main challenge is to make an effective link between these innovations and public policies.
Yeah. Well, I see you are really, really enjoying what you are doing. And you said that you know most of all the projects, and I think that says something because there are many. So, how is the co-creation? How these projects are incubated or thoughts between different people that find the need and then apply and then develop? Because at Eoh-for-Good, we are really advocating for this co-creation at different levels with different actors in different fields. So all these multi-eye effects from interpersonal collaboration to international collaboration needs to be put in concrete initiatives, and we need a how. How do we do this?
That's actually one of the evolutions we did from the previous experience to the current one. Some of the learnings that we did along the way were crucial to adapt our financing instruments and our funding model. One of them was that actually you made three major changes. Actually four. The fourth is on the financing model. We made an adaptation to make it as simple as possible with European funds, but the other three were: first, we made impact assessments mandatory for all projects. Second, we asked the projects to align their purpose with the social development goals. And third, we are creating incentives for the projects to involve the communities and the end users in the diagnosis of the problem and the designing of the solution. Because we learned along the way the importance of involving the end users and the community around and other experts and other institutions. And why this, back in 2013, 2014, no one talked about impact management.
Yes.
And we didn't even have the social development goals because they are from 2015. So in 10 years, a lot of things changed. And we learned along the way that social innovation requires community involvement.
And one thing that I see from this initiative as it evolves is the flexibility and adaptability to the new trends and the new needs. So non-existing frameworks for impact management for this long-term vision, we can go to different levels to find those agendas. But I think it's very interesting to see that you are keeping the initiative open for further developments and adjustments in a flexible manner. So it's backcasting on these learning feedback loops.
Yes, that's it. It's not completely flexible because we're using European funds. We are not doing that alone. We do that with the managing authorities that are the real funders of the projects. But we are seen as a very innovative way of dealing with these funds. So we are always testing the boundaries of the funding models. We're going to launch in the next few months a very innovative financing instrument that is going to be tested only in Portugal as well for the first time, based on a specific new approach that the European Commission allowed the member states to explore, which is the financing not linked to costs, as they called it. And we are going to try to fund social innovation projects and pay these projects based on public budget savings that comes from the impact they generate. We care what is the impact that you are going to generate on people's lives, and what is the public budget savings that comes from that. And we've been working for that years. We are working on that years now, creating an open access online platform, which we called onevalue.gov.pt, that presents the public investment per capita in different social areas. And I think my vision is that this is a very interesting way of funding social innovation in the future. If you can monetize the impact based on public budget savings, it makes sense for everyone. And maybe contracts in the future can have this balanced way of funding the investment, funding the costs, the core organization, but also having a part for public budget savings.
I think this is very interesting because it's a way also to see the return on investment and an impact-driven approach but also a way to incentivize different people in the value chain of public-private ecosystem to really find out what is more efficient, but also more inclusive and more adjusted in terms of returning to society with solutions for the needs. And then when you put different pieces together, then it's very interesting how you can create value and beyond quantitative indicators for the implementation of projects. So which are very short term.
Yes, yes, and it's also challenging and very interesting for public administration. We work closely, of course. Portugal Social Innovation has always been coordinated at the center of the government from a political direction. The political directions at the center of the government. It means that it always had this coordination of a ministry that has transversal competencies. And we work with them, and all of this is a co-creative process with entrepreneurs, with investors, of course, but with public administration as well. And the European funds allowed us to test this way of doing things.
Well, that's continuing the dreaming and the vision after more than 10 years now.
So far, so good.
So good. So we cross fingers that you can continue dreaming and doing. But what are the difficulties?
We face a lot of challenges. First of all, design very innovative financing instruments with the limitations that come from the European regulations and national regulations using public funds, using funds that are very conservative with a lot of strings attached for impact organizations that really have impact. They know the problems, they have good solutions, but have no structure to deal with this. Then we had some resistance from mainstream social organizations.
Wow.
Also, as well. Yes, of course, because they were used to do things in a certain way.
Yes.
And the idea of social innovation brought a lot of new narratives that they were not used to. And we removed all of that from our narrative in order to reach everyone. But that was a challenge in the beginning. Also difficult to mobilize private investment. And things change rapidly. And now we are facing this challenge as well. Also, the unprepared public administration to follow up innovation and embed innovation. This is an ongoing challenge. Maybe the major challenge that we face today is to create these effective mechanisms between the innovation that we are testing on the ground and validating and public policies. I always talk about this because I'm in a position where I see things that make no sense. Yeah. We are testing new solutions that do work, that have impact, and in a parallel route, we have public policies that keep doing what they always did, not as efficient as they could. So we have to make these connections. And also, we're also developing the ecosystem of intermediaries and consultants. And those are very important because the organizations cannot thrive by their own, especially if they are inexperienced. They need help from these experts. And that's something that was quite immature 10 years ago and still is. So that's also a challenge on the ground.
Yeah, that was our intuition when we were putting together Eoh-for-Good. Just is leading these systemic transformations for the common good, and our product is being the bridge between different levels, organizations, etc. Because when you work within an organization, you realize that there are not the existing bonds between different departments, units, etc. So the inefficiencies can be really addressed. And when you work as this intermediary organization, then you can bring the knowledge, the methodologies to really link different people that can be complementary to each other, that can be supportive, and they can learn from each other so that we can maximize their capacity and their impact. And then it really makes sense.
And you need those intermediaries, not just for the entrepreneurs and social organizations, but for the investors as well. They are using this resource, having experts helping the investors to organize their portfolios and decide where and who to fund. And so not just usual suspects, and public administration needs them.
as well. Yeah. But also companies. We are working also with companies that want to really be part of this common goods
Yes,
approach.
I was talking about, when I talk about the investors,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the companies.
The companies, yeah.
Not the funds, but the companies, business organizations that are directing their funds, and corporate foundations as well.
Yeah. So we are talking about the NHelix approach now. So what is the future, Filipe?
Well, based on the Portuguese story, what I think is that we are creating an experimental lab of future public policies.
Wow, that looks very, very interesting. Yes.
That's it. So this was a test to create this cross-sector structure that tests new solutions and thinks about the future. The problem is that it's very difficult to mobilize energy to do everything at once.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us need to save our citizens that need help today, but some of us need to be away from that stress and think about the future so that we have new solutions to make sure that we no longer have to save so many people at the same time. So, and what we're testing in Portugal, I hope it's a bet to create this cross-sector structure that tests new solutions for future public policies.
We are starting to see some of the effects of what's in the future. So this is very, very interesting.
You know what? Another learning that we had, that social innovation, in most of the cases, is preventive, not corrective. We need social innovation to prevent the problems, not to correct them. We need to find solutions to prevent those challenges. And the social innovation is a very effective way to address this challenge. Because a preventive approach means that after your intervention, hopefully nothing changes, because it's all good and we need to keep it good.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to mobilize funds to fund projects that have preventive approaches. And of course, the biggest learning is that maybe sometimes it's easier to go alone, but it's much more effective to go together.
Wow, that's a claimer. I would like to ask how to convince public and private investors to do an initiative that is really impact driven.
Well, it's a question of legitimacy to operate.
Mm-hmm.
You can no longer be away from the social challenges that we face as a society. So that's a way to survive.
Okay, that's a very good claimer. Why social innovation and why in collaboration?
Because we need solutions not to have so many challenges and social problems in the future. So social innovation is a way to tackle the roots of the problems. And we need to fix the pain, but we need to also fix the cause of the pain. That's why we need social innovation.
And why in collaboration?
Because humanity's history shows us that we can never do anything meaningful alone. We need each other. You cannot exist alone. No one exists alone.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Filipe, for your inspiring work, for your commitment. We need to really build this bigger ecosystem together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. This conversation, this is an expression of the bridges we need to do among ourselves. It was a learning journey to me, this conversation, and we cannot do anything effectively on ourselves and alone. So it's important to have this. Thank you very much, Tony.